Ecclesiastes chapter 3, probably the most, verses 1 through 8, probably the most known passage in Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What we see here in Ecclesiastes is God's sovereignty and the perpetual movement of life, which of course is according to his sovereignty. Ecclesiastes is all about life upon earth. And again, throughout the book, Solomon is looking at life through the lens of pursuing lasting satisfaction, lasting happiness apart from God, which he did. Again, he had everything, got away from the Lord, and that's how he lived his life, seeking lasting satisfaction and happiness in the material, apart from God. But he's constantly brought to the realization throughout Ecclesiastes that such a lifestyle is vanity. It is a chasing of the wind, a vexation of spirit, thus emphasizing and proving his main point. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. Now in this section of the book, Solomon speaks of the fact that life is in a perpetual state of movement. And in such a shifting scene and in the constant fluctuation, the individual that seeks lasting satisfaction and happiness apart from God never arrives at that. Never arrives at lasting satisfaction. Never arrives at lasting happiness. So in this section of the book, he sees that earthly life is short, and it is only a temporary assignment, and life is just that. Life is an assignment from God, and that's temporary, and the only opportunity that we have to serve and honor the Lord upon this earth is in this life. So in this section of the book, Solomon stresses the reality of change, the uncertainty in life, and he reveals that there is a God order. There is a God purpose behind all the activities and all these events of life. revealing how insignificant we are in life. We have a very small purpose in this life. Very small, very insignificant. The purpose of this section is to show that God is at work. God is at work. And that's true no matter what. And to express, again, the frailty, the frustration, the insufficiency of man's wisdom, of man's endeavors. And all of this leads to, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep His commandments. So let's look at the perpetual movement of life. In verse 1, there is a general description of life. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. And what is said here is an introduction to this section of the book. In verse 4, or in verse 1, there are 4 words, nouns, descriptive of life upon earth. You notice, to every thing. This covers activities, events, situations, circumstances, details. The next word is the word season. Season. That has reference to an appointed period. An appointed period or cycle in which the actions, the things, the activities, the events, and the circumstances exist. So we have thing and we have season. Thing is, again, in this appointed period. It's in this appointed cycle. This is when it takes place. The third word is time. And again, this is more precise than a season. It's more detailed than a season. It refers to an appointment or an appointed moment in which these activities, events, and circumstances exist. So the word thing exists in a more general way in a season, in a more precise way in a time. But you see, there's an order here. Everything God does, there's an order, a very precise order. And then the fourth word is purpose. And that would speak of all earthly matters, all earthly happenings and incidents. So Solomon is saying, to everything there is a season and a time, and this is all appointed by God. So to everything there is a season and a time, for every matter or purpose under heaven. Nothing's out of order. Nothing. So those 4 words, thing, season, time, purpose, tell us that life consists of actions, consists of activities and events and matters happenings, occurrences, circumstances, incidents, and all of these are appointed. They're scheduled. They're arranged. They're all scheduled. They're all arranged. But they're scheduled and arranged within certain bounds. And those bounds are called seasons and time. And then in verses 2 through 8, he goes through the ever-changing seasons of life. A lot of people, if you refer to these first 8 verses, especially if they grew up in the 60s, will recall the song, the bird song the birds put out, which was a protest song, which almost all songs were in the 60s, of Vietnam, and mostly on verse 8, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace, with the emphasis being on a time to love and a time of peace. But again, Ecclesiastes 3, long before the birds put out their song, long before. So we have the ever-changing seasons of life. And in these verses, Solomon lists 14 sets of opposites, 14 sets of contrasts, 14 sets of extremes. And he uses these as a means of illustrating the wide spectrum of actions and activities and occurrences in life. The word time occurs 28 times in verses 2 through 8. 28 times in 7 verses, which emphasizes the idea again of seasons and cycles. Again, 14 sets of opposites, 14 sets of extremes. In each set, you have, between 2 events, you have many other events. For example, the first one is a time to be born, a time to die. Now, there's a lot that happens between those 2 things. Our birth was set in time. Likewise, our death. And likewise, everything in between the 2. And then he goes on, the remainder sets would be some of the things that would transpire between birth and death. There's a time to be born, a time to die. The second set is there is a time to plant that occurs again between birth and death. And there is a time to pluck up that which is planted. The third set is there is a time to kill and a time to heal. Again, a lot transpires between these 2. There may be a planting time. There may be a plucking time. But all of these fit in between the 2 opposites. There is a time to break down. There is a time to build up. There is a time to weep. And there is a time to laugh. So there is a time when it is appropriate to weep. There is a time when it's appropriate to laugh. And again, many events between the 2. A time to mourn. It expresses sadness, grief. A time to dance. expressing joy. There's a time to cast away stones. There's also a time to gather stones. There's a time to embrace. There is a time to refrain from embracing. There's a time to get, a time to gain. There is a time to lose. There's a time to keep. There's a time to cast away. There's a time to rend or to tear. There's a time to sow or to repair what is torn. There's a time to keep silence. There is a time to speak. Again, they're all extremes, from one extreme to the other. And in between are many events. There's a time to love. There's a time to hate. People say love does not consist of hate, but that's just not so. If you love somebody, you hate that which harms them. And the two go together. There's a time to love, there's a time to hate. There is a time of war. Again, war, there's a time for it. And there's a time of peace. So in these 14 sets of contrast, you basically have a picture of life. And the lesson of Ecclesiastes is, do not seek lasting fulfillment and happiness in that which is transient. And all of these things are. But rather seek and pursue God. So in each of these 28 occurrences, the lesson is, fear God, keep His commandments. Birth is usually a time of happiness, time of joy. Death, just the opposite. But you will not find lasting happiness in birth. Just the same, you do not find lasting sorrow in death. So, again, the lesson is, do not depend on any of these 28 events for your satisfaction, for your happiness. Why? Because it's going to change. The one that you rejoiced in and when they were born, they're going to die. They're going to die. So you do not make these your foundation. But that's how man lives. That's how man lives. But Solomon is saying, I've tried it. Don't do that. Take my word for it, Solomon is saying. You will not find lasting happiness, satisfaction in these things. So to everything there is a season, a time to, and then 28 events are mentioned. And what you see here in verses 2 through 8 is that life is a repetitive process. Every day people are born. Every day people die. Every day. And so it is with all of these sets. 28 events. They just continually repeat. But again, remember who's in control. Remember the sovereignty of God. So in the 14 sets of contrast, the things that are mentioned are real. They're not imaginary, and we will experience different things. No one will ever experience that which has never been experienced. Almost everyone has experienced all of these things in one form or another. But you will never experience what someone else has never experienced. You won't be the first. And there are people who act like that. If something happens to them, it's the first time it's ever happened in the universe. Well, that's just false. That's a result of self-centered thinking. Whatever we go through, someone else has gone through it. Millions have gone through it. We see here also that life is a reality. Again, all of these things are real. All of these things are very definite. They all exist. They're all things that are personally felt and experienced. But again, God is in control. We see here that life is full of variety and change. Whatever you experience, whatever it is, it's going to pass. It's going to end. And something else is going to happen. You go through stages, seasons in life. You raise your children. That's going to end. That's going to pass. It's not going to forever be in this life. You're going to move on to another chapter. Well, I just wish this would last forever. Well, it's not going to. So get that out of your mind. Don't live that way. It's not going to. You just need to fear God and keep His commandments in each stage of life. Again, our life is a tale that is told. The book has chapters. Every life has chapters. You pass from one to another. So it's full of variety, full of change. And you're in a stage of life and you're very happy. Well, that stage is going to end. So if you're basing your happiness on that stage of life, that aspect of life, if that, again, we're to find happiness in it, but to base your happiness on that, that's going to end. And then what are you going to do? Then what are you going to do? Well, you're going to be miserable. But that's not how we're to live life. So, there's quite a difference. Again, variety and change. There's quite a difference between birth and death. There's quite a difference between planting and plucking. Between killing and healing. Between demolishing and building. There's extremes. These are very, very different. There's quite a difference between weeping and laughing. Between mourning and dancing. Between throwing away and gathering. Big difference. Between embracing and withdrawing. Between gaining and losing. Between keeping and tossing it away. Keep. Well, eventually something's got to be thrown away. There's a big difference. But whatever the season in life, not only can it change, it will. It will change. Well, I wish I could stay 21 forever. Well, you're not going to. that changes. Well, I don't want to ever get old. Well, if you live long enough, you're going to. That's life. That's the way life works. Again, it's seasons. It will change, and at times, changes can be drastic. It's a drastic change from birth to death. That's drastic. And change can be sudden. All of these 14 sets, these 28 events, all of them can happen without warning. And in an instant. Some you see coming for years perhaps. You see it coming. Others, it can just change without any warning whatsoever. You can go from weeping to laughing or laughing to weeping just in a matter of minutes, seconds. So again, there's an uncertainty about life. From the human perspective, there's an uncertainty. But we don't live in uncertainty, or we shouldn't, because our focus is God. And everything is certain with Him. Another thing we see here is, even though there is a variety and great change, life is not random. It's not random. Many think it is, but it's not. Though life at times it may appear to be random, it may appear to be haphazard with no discernible pattern. We may not always be able to discern the pattern. As you look back on your life, you can see that there is a pattern. You can see that. You may not have discerned it when you were going through it, but looking back, you discern there's been a pattern throughout my life. And you ought to be able to see God in that pattern, which is encouragement to fear God and to keep His commandments. So it may appear to be haphazard. There may be no discernible pattern to you and I, but such is never so. God always has a pattern. Nothing is haphazard. Nothing is random. There is a precise order. There is a purpose. Again, there is a reminder of this in chapter 3, verse 1, in those words, season and time. Season and time. Two things that are not random. Two things that are not haphazard. Season and time. Those two words are also a reminder that we're not in control. Two words that speak loud and clear. We are not in control. Those two words are season and time. You can't control time. You can't control season. You can't do it. There's a pattern to season. There's a pattern to time. To everything, actions, activities, and events, there is a season. There is an appointed cycle. And there is a time, which is a measurable period in which conditions exist. And to every purpose, to every matter, to every incident, to every circumstance under heaven. There is a season, there is a time. So think of those two words, season and time. God is in control of the seasons. God is in control of time. God created both. He created seasons. He created time. It is declared in Genesis 8, verse 22, while the earth remaineth. So far that's been over 6,000 years. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. The sun's not going to burn out before the earth ends. It's not going to happen. We have that promise. Genesis 8:22. All these people, they get all, the sun's going to burn out and this. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not saying we shouldn't take care of the environment, but don't be ridiculous. While the earth remaineth, there will be seed time, there will be harvest. And there will be cold and there will be heat. And there will be summer and there will be winter. And there will be day and night. It just happens on a regular basis. The seasons speaks of two facts. One, God is in control. Two, we're not. Two very basic facts that all of God's people need to learn, and learn well. God is in control. We are not. So quit trying to control. God is in control. We are not. So whatever the season, do not seek lasting fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness in the season. Enjoy the season. God gives us season. God gives us time. We're to enjoy it. We're to live in it for Him. But do not depend on it for your satisfaction, for your happiness, but rather depend upon the God of the season, the God of the time. Don't seek lasting happiness in the season. That's going to end. That's going to change. Seek your lasting happiness in God. That's not going to change. That's why it's lasting. So very simple truths. And again, it all comes down to fear God, keep His commandments. Whatever the season, here's our responsibility. Fear God, keep His commandments. Whatever the time, fear God, keep His commandments. That's what we're to do. Let's look to the Lord. Heavenly Father,